I was born in a poor mountain village with a twin sister. Because of the poverty of my family, I couldn't raise two children, so I had no choice but to toss a coin to decide who would go and who would stay. The older sister stays on the front, and the younger sister stays on the back. In this way, I was left and my sister was adopted. And I, the child left behind, was educated from an early age that I robbed my sister of the opportunity to stay at home, and let her be alone, and live a life under the fence. I live carefully, and dare not do anything that makes my mother unhappy. I studied hard, and held the first prize in front of my mother to get her praise. But she casually threw the award aside, and began to mention her sister. If my family Nyan is still by my side, she will definitely be better than you. I silently picked up the award certificate, and put it in the iron box at the head of the bed. There are also gifts that I once wanted to give to my mother on Mother's Day, letters that have not been sent out, all kinds of small things that my mother doesn't like. Even though I am very familiar with my mother's attitude towards me, her indifference still makes me a little uncomfortable. I also made a loud noise to my mother, but she said, "You have occupied your sister's life. What else do you want?" It made me completely lose the desire to resist. In her words, it seemed that I was the culprit who made my sister leave home. I was wronged, sad, and even prayed for many midnights. If only I had been the one who was sent away at that time. Later, the situation at home continued to be better, and we finally moved from a small village to a big city. I thought my mother would be good to me when the situation at home got better. But my mother seemed to miss my sister more. She turned her longing for her into resentment, and vented it on me. She always hit me inexplicably. When I curled up and shuddered, she hugged me and said sorry. Every time at this time, I am not only afraid of my mother's beating and scolding me, but also rely on the little warmth between us at this time. Sometimes I think it would be good if the days passed like this. So I began to study harder to make myself a good child that my mother can be proud of. But my mother doesn't seem to care about these. Sometimes she stares at my face, and even touches me gently. I thought she finally began to care about me. If Nyan were here, she would be so big and so beautiful. It turns out that my mother hasn't changed. She only misses her sister, and I am still the child who can't be loved by her. Mom wanted her sister to come back all day long, but she couldn't ask her to come back. I have seen my mother sitting in the living room at night to wipe her tears many times. I feel very sad but helpless. Later, when I was in junior high school, my sister's adoptive parents had a car accident and both passed away. That my mother's favorite sister is finally coming back. I can't help but be excited. No way my sister and I can stay at home. That night, I was so excited that I couldn't sleep until dawn that I fell asleep. The dream of that night was so sweet, that it was a little confusing. It seemed that I had seen the happy family after my sister came back. 2. My sister is back. She is very white and beautiful, which is what my mother is looking forward to. I stood in the corner and watched my mother and sister hug each other tightly, and cried with joy. I'm also very happy. My nose is a little sore. On that day, the whole family was very happy, and there were many dishes on the table that I had never seen before. But such a vegetable sister has long been commonplace. The picky sister reluctantly ate a little under her mother's soft persuasion. At that time, I learned that my sister's adoptive parents had good financial conditions, and her life could even be called excellent. I looked at my mother who heard my sister's words, sometimes regretful, and sometimes happy. The family was happy, and I sat on the edge of the sofa, out of the box. "Sister." The beautiful voice pulled me back from my thoughts. Oh, I was a little nervous, but couldn't help getting excited. But with this claim, we have nothing to say. However, this is enough to surprise me for a marginal person in a family like me. After her sister came home, her mother was visibly happy. She wanted to give her all the best things. I know that my mother feels ashamed of her sister, and wants to make up for her as much as possible. I understand her. As a mother, the pain in her heart is unimaginable to send her children away from an early age. Because of this, I have always had illusions about my mother. It's not that my mother doesn't love me, but that she lost a child. It's so sad. In this way, I forgave my mother again and again. Even once on Mother's Day, I bought a bouquet of flowers for my mother with the money I saved. I just wanted to surprise my mother, but she scolded me hoarsely. "You know that Nyan is gone, and you still want me to celebrate Mother's Day? Look at what kind of heart you have." After saying that, he threw the flower to the ground fiercely, and then burst into tears again. Looking at this scene, I was a little at a loss. I heard my father coming out of the room, and I looked at him for help. However, my father looked at me reproachfully, and went to comfort my mother. For a long time, I squatted down and picked up the petals on the ground, and tears hit my hands fiercely. The next day, Everyone tacitly did not mention that matter, and the days went by day. Early the next morning before dawn, I heard a sound from the kitchen. I quietly opened the door, and found that my parents were cooking in the kitchen. It's good that my sister is back. We can have breakfast at home. Since I remember, I have never had breakfast at home. I once asked my mother, and she only said trouble. After breakfast, the mother carefully knocked on her sister's room, and softly coaxed her to get up for dinner. I hid in the quilt carefully, and waited for my mother to call me. I was even afraid that my mother would find out that I was awake and slow down my breathing unconsciously. I in this way. I waited for a long time, so long that I seemed to recall all the things over the years, and then I realized that my mother would not call me. When I came out of the room, they had already eaten. The moment they saw me, I saw a moment of uncomplactation on my father's face. My mother scolded me loudly. I got up so late and didn't come back for dinner. I walked over and saw seafood porridge, shrimp cakes, and even steamed buns stuffed with seafood. I turned my head and left, and my mother's curse came from behind me. Get out of here if you don't eat. Don't get in our way. I paused and left without looking back. Sister, can't you eat seafood? The younger sister asked. Only then did my parents remember that I was allergic to seafood. When I was a child, I almost died because of eating seafood. A trace of guilt flashed in their eyes, but it soon disappeared, because before I had gone far, I heard my mother say, "Who told her not to say it?" 3. The life I was looking forward to did not come. I am still superfluous in the eyes of my parents. Today is my sister's and I's birthday. It's my sister's first birthday when she comes back, and it's also my first birthday. In the past, at this time of the year, my mother would take the little clothes her sister wore and cry. I don't know where my thoughts are still suffering. If I accidentally walk in front of her at this time, I will be scolded. If it weren't for you, your sister wouldn't have been sent under the fence. When my mother's emotions are almost vented on me, my father will comfort my mother at this time. When the two of us clean up and go out for dinner, I will be locked at home alone, because they said that when they saw me, they would think of my sister, who didn't know where she was now. So I didn't like birthday at all. But today, when I saw the newly decorated home, I still look forward to my birthday. Mom and Dad decorated the living room warmly and beautifully. They bought a big cake and cooked a table of dishes. Surrounded by her parents, the younger sister sat in front of the cake, wearing a birthday hat. I looked at my sister with envy, and she noticed my gaze and asked, "Sister, do you want to blow out the candles together?" I was surprised to walk to her side, but I heard my mother say, "No, your sister spends time at home every year. This year is Nian Nian's first birthday at home. Come and blow the candle." My steps stopped. I want to say that I also want to blow candles, and I also want to have a birthday. But the happy appearance of a family of 3 stung my heart. Gifts, cakes, blessings, laughter. It turns out that birthdays are also something to be happy about. But I feel more uncomfortable than every birthday before. At that moment, I actually had a trace of resentment towards my sister. But I also knew that she had done nothing wrong. And in this family, the only one who still cares about me is my sister. Although it's not much, at least it proves that I'm still in this family. On this day, I finally confirmed that my mother didn't love me. 4. From that day on, I was no longer a child who yearned for maternal love. I just wanted to study hard, leave this home as soon as possible, and return this home that does not belong to me to them. In this way, my grades continue to rise. Most of the children in the neighborhood are in the same school. Even if I don't say anything, my excellent grades are still passed on to my parents. If she hadn't been with us since she was a child, she wouldn't have achieved such good results. There is no secret. It's all cultivated from childhood. If her sister is also around, I don't know how many times better than her. Although the neighbors kept complimenting, they still saw their mother's eccentricity. I came from behind them, and the sharp-eyed neighbors have found me and greeted me warmly. "Yo, why has the child lost weight recently? Go to my aunt's house for dinner in the evening. It's worthy of our little prodigy here. It's awesome. I really want such a worry-free child." I greeted them warmly one by one. "These aunts are very nice." "Good, Auntie. I'll go to your house for dinner tomorrow. I like the braised pork ribs you made best." "Good, good. Every time you come, the family is very happy." Aunt Gao was so happy that she praised repeatedly. "Auntie is calling now to cancel the seafood you just ordered, and buy your favorite food." "Oh. All right, thank you, Auntie." I skillfully climbed on Aunt Gao's wrist. After saying goodbye to my uncles and aunts, I turned around and went home. As soon as I got home, my mother sat on the sofa angrily without saying a word. I didn't care, and went straight back to the room. "Stop." Mom finally couldn't help speaking. I looked at my mother with doubts in my eyes. Looking at my appearance, I suddenly became furious. "Why? I already want to go to someone. My family treats you so unfairly. I have to find the next mother so soon. Mom's words were a little angry. No, I don't want to argue with my mother. I just want to go back to my room to study. I left you at home and asked your sister to be under the fence since she was a child. Now you still talk to me like this. Do you still have a conscience? My mother mentioned again and again that I occupied my sister's quota at home. When I was a child, I didn't understand, but now I already understand that it was not my fault. And I couldn't help opening my mouth. Did you decide who my sister and I would go and who would stay? So can I control it? What did I do wrong again? I couldn't help crying anymore. Mom didn't expect that I, who had always been obedient, would say such a thing. Without thinking about it, she came forward and slapped me hard. It's so heavy that it even dispersed the mother-daughter relationship between us for so many years. I stubbornly raised my head and looked at my mother and said word by word, "You know this for many years. You have been busy with work and have never cooked lunch for me. Even I don't have a key. I can't enter the door and can't cook. If it weren't for Aunt Gao, I would be hungry every day. Isn't the school offering meals?" The school's meals were gone as early as when I was in junior high school. So the family gives you so much money, won't you buy it yourself? Money? Have you given me any money? Didn't Dad give it to you? I don't even want to waste these things and have these unnecessary quarrels with my mother. I'll call your father. By this time, my mother thought I was lying. Didn't you always give the child's money? Dad's voice came clearly from the microphone. My mother's expression gradually stiffened, but I don't want to take care of it anymore. After returning to the room, I heard the voice of my mother and father scolding each other's responsibility. These sounds made me upset and anxious. I skillfully opened the drawer, took out the medicine and took it. But this time, my inner emotions could not be suppressed for a long time. I was so upset that I finally picked up the blade and cut in a familiar place. Looking at the fresh blood flowing out, the uneasiness in my heart was gradually replaced by pain. Just hold on a little longer. Just leave this home. I keep comforting myself. The quarrel did not affect my life. Maybe my mother just felt guilty for a short time. Compared with my sister's absence for more than 10 years, this can only be regarded as a small incident in her life. But after that, they gave me money, so that I didn't have to look for those jobs on weekends and summer vacations, and I could spend more time on study. 5. After the college entrance examination, I achieved a very satisfactory result. I have already thought about the school I want to apply for. I was born in the North, and I didn't like or even hated the life here for 18 years. So I applied for a school in the South. That I heard that winter in the South is not too cold. I want to go and have a look. Did you apply for a school in the South? As soon as I entered the door, my mother began to question me. How do you know? I didn't tell her about it. Your teacher told me that if I hadn't asked her, would she have reported to the Southern school without telling us? Maybe my indifferent attitude embarrassed her a little, and she began to put away her gentle face. Let me tell you directly that I don't agree with you applying for that school. That's my own business. I stared at her with cold eyes. You can't go. For so many years, I have paid your tuition fee. What qualifications do you have to go without my consent? Her words made my blood seem to stop flowing, and I looked at her in disbelievably. Although I was disappointed in my mother, her words still stung me fiercely. I turned around and took out my ledger. When I was a child, my family conditions were not good, and I recorded every expenditure in detail. Later, even if the family conditions improved, they often ignored me and rarely gave me money. I had to record every penny. Over the years, I have recorded every penny you have given me. I gave her the ledger. And since you remember the money you gave me, I have saved most of it, and I still have some money and scholarships left. I put these things on the table one by one. If you think the amount is wrong, you can check your transfer record carefully. Of course, these are definitely not enough. But don't worry, I will pay you back, and I will never spend a penny more than you. Bang! There was a crisp slap. Then it depends on whether you can go or not. After saying this, the mother slammed the door fiercely and left. I touched my red and swollen face and silently comforted myself. It's almost over. Since that day, I have moved out of my home, and I still took back the money, which they owe me. I rented a small house outside, went to work during the day, and cooked some of my favorite dishes at night. My life was so comfortable that it was a bit like the ending in a TV series. Finally, it's the day to check the volunteer. Although I already know the final result, I still feel a little flustered. I checked it over and over again. Finally, I found it out. The moment I saw the words on the screen, I stiffened all over. A great sense of fear attacked me, and my head buzzed. I fainted on that day when I thought it was salvation. When I woke up, I was already lying in the hospital. The moment I opened my eyes, tears flowed uncontrollably. It's over. Who changed my volunteer? I don't even have the strength to say this sentence. The straw that has been supporting me has been completely broken. What's the matter? Mom answered unconvincedly. Why can't you let me go, even if I beg you, Mom? I asked her in tears. You're gone, and your sister is out of company. Besides, your sister finally came back, and you occupied. I couldn't hear what my mother said behind me. Sister. It's my sister again. That I closed my eyes and stopped looking at any of them. Who is Jiang Mei's family? I am. You come out for a moment. Mom followed the doctor out. Doctor, is my child all right? It should be okay. It looks very good to quarrel with me. Mom said to herself. She has severe depression and bipolar disorder. The patient's family should not stimulate the patient. The doctor gave my mother a meaningful look. And she has self-harm behavior. Pay attention to the behavior of her children. Okay. Mom praised it repeatedly. After returning to the ward, my mother asked me loudly. The doctor said you have any depression and bipolar disorder? You still harm yourself. Your body is given to you. What right do you have to destroy it? My body is skinny, my parents. I see that you have read books in vain all these years. You can't even apply for a volunteer. The best school is here, do you know? If you were half as smart as your sister, you wouldn't. I began to shout and interrupted my mother's chatter. In the next life, I will never be your daughter again. You don't deserve my mother. I hate you. I have shouted out all the words I have been suppressing in my heart for years. After saying that, he huddled tightly in the quilt, covered his ears, and stopped listening to any sound outside. 6. Late at night, I sneaked out to find a fire hammer and hid it in the bed. I have observed the hospital in the past few days. The window of the hospital can only be opened a little, and I can't go up to the roof. That I've been suffering a lot these days. I wanted to leave, but my mother said I was sick and asked me to stay here until I recovered. But I know that as long as I'm with my mother, I won't be fine for the rest of my life. She won't let me go. I thought about leaving secretly, but she found out and took away my ID card. She called a nurse to look after me, and didn't go anywhere for me. I can't go. Since I can't leave, I won't go. Mom always comes to see me around 9 o'clock, just a glance. The cute little girl in the same ward with me will be discharged from the hospital tomorrow. She is really cute and calls me sister. There is also an old man who left today. I'm a little reluctant to give him. Obviously, he reasoned for me yesterday. I don't know when there will be someone in the empty bed today. However, I hope he can move in again the day after tomorrow, so that I will be the only one tomorrow night. When I got up this morning, the little girl had been discharged from the hospital. When she left, she also folded a paper crane for me. It was very beautiful. The weather is also very good today. The sky is very blue and cloudless. Today I also went out to bask in the sun. I feel that I haven't had such a warm sunshine for a long time. It's very comfortable. At 9 o'clock in the evening, my mother came, and my father and sister came with me today. Mom, why don't you love me? Obviously I've done well enough. I didn't wait for my mother to answer and continue to speak. Do you regret giving birth to me? In fact, I also regret having a mother like you. Do you know? If you hadn't changed my volunteer, my end would not have been like this. Mom, actually, I really want to see your regrets, but I can't see it. After saying that, I turned my head to look at my father. Dad, you haven't taken care of me for so many years. Are you also blaming me for stealing Nian's life? You have never really been my father. Dad, to be honest, I hate you too, but I don't know why I hate you. I can't tell this kind of feeling. I smiled softly. Nian, I love you very much, although we are not like ordinary sisters. This kind of feeling may have been the beginning of my mother's blame for stealing my sister's life. I was instilled with this idea and felt ashamed of my sister since I was a child. So after my sister came back, I have been as good as possible to her and love her. Maybe we are born in another family, and we will be very close sisters. Sister, go and buy me an ice cream. I want that flavor to be my favorite. Good, sister. I left my sister. I got out of bed and looked downstairs. There were not many people at this time. Mom and Dad, step back a little. The glass will scratch you later. I said this silently in my heart. The unknown parents stepped back a little when they heard it. A little more back. Mom is a little impatient. What on earth are you going to do? Stag back a little, and you'll know later. It's very fast, I promise. Although they were reluctant, they still withdrew. I looked out of the window, and there was no one. It's time. I took out the hammer from my sleeve and knocked hard at the window. Duong glass cracked in response to the sound. I didn't hesitate to break the window and go down. Finally, I'm free. 7. The moment I jumped down, I saw my parents' faces deformed by fear. and I was a little happy in my heart. At least at this moment, their emotions were born for me, that I felt blood flowing out of my body, and I felt that I was gradually losing my vitality. I slowly pulled up the corners of my mouth, but it failed, but it was not bad. I looked at my hand with some doubt. Am I still alive? Is this the miracle of mankind? While I was thinking nonsense, a familiar figure came into view. Parents. Instead of coming towards me, they rushed to the ground. I followed and saw my body lying in a pool of blood. I'm floating above them. Looking at my body, to be honest, I regretted a little. This death is really a little ugly. If I had known, I would have chosen another way. I put my attention on my parents again. For the first time, I saw other emotions given to me by them. It's heartbreaking to see them howling at my body. But if it weren't for them, I would have gone to the place I yearned for. Oh. I put away my sadness and wanted to drift away. However, I just floated a few meters and returned to my original place. Then I tried several times, but the result was the same. It's really frustrating. I can't leave them alive, and I can't leave them after death. I have no choice but to stay by their side. By back, Mom is wrong, Mom is really wrong. I heard her shouting hoarsely, but my heart was no longer calm. I was like this at the beginning, but she didn't care at that time. I listened to her say a lot of words. I couldn't hear these words when I was alive, and I didn't want to hear them when I died. Floating is still a little novel. The dream of flying when I was a child came true when I was an adult. I turned around. It's not interesting, so I came back. Finally, after the process, I was taken directly to the morgue by the hospital. That's right. How could my mother take me home like this? Thinking about it, I followed my body. Unexpectedly, I was pulled back as soon as I left. I thought I couldn't leave before because I couldn't leave my body, but I didn't expect that I couldn't leave my family. I fainted for a short time, and continued to follow my parents. My parents were silent all the way, but I was a little uncomfortable and said it alone. It turns out that there is still this step when a person dies. Do you think you can only come back after the first 7? It's boring to be a ghost. Why am I the only one a Piao? It's so boring. It's so boring. I met Aunt Gao when I was about to go home. Why hasn't your eldest daughter seen it these days? My old man misses her very me. You go back and ask her to come to my house for dinner. Seeing that my parents didn't move, I left. Auntie, go slowly. We'll eat in the next life. I went forward to hold her, but I found that my hand had passed through her. Alas, poor child, meet such parents. Aunt Gao's voice was not loud, but it clearly reached her parents' ears. It turns out that everyone's daughter is having a bad life, and only they don't know. Whether I really don't know or pretend not to know, I won't know again in my life. The couple, who are over 5 years old, helped each other to return home. Mom, where have you been? I didn't see you when I came back from buying it, he said, and turned his head to look back. Where is your sister? I bought a lot of them for her. Mom and Dad didn't say a word. I nodded with some relief. My sister for so many years didn't hurt in vain. Seeing that her parents ignored her, she went out by herself. If you don't say anything, I'll go to see my sister by myself, lest she dare not go home again. How dangerous it is to be alone outside. Come back. Mom spoke hoarsely. Mom couldn't open her mouth. Don't tell her, hide it from her. I was very anxious. She went to college. My sister doesn't believe it. For me I'll ask her later. After saying that, he went back to the room. The sister's words made them more guilty. A child knew that he couldn't go outside. It was dangerous outside. And they not only made the child unable to enter the door for several years, but also ignored the child when he went out to rent a house. I didn't fulfill the responsibilities of a parent at all. I looked at them and didn't ask before. Now that people are dead, they come here to block them. It's quite annoying. 8. After watching them cry in the living room, they went to my room again. No, why are you going to my room? I really want to stop it, but I can't do anything. Forget it. Anyway, he's dead. Why do you care so much? They went in and turned on the light, but found that it was not on, so they tried several times. Don't press it. It's been broken for several years. They took a hand light and turned on my desk lamp. The whole room is very neat and crowded with a lot of books. When they entered the door, they saw the iron box at my bedside. Oh, that's my personal belongings. Don't move. I was a little anxious to grab it, but I couldn't touch it. After they got the box, they sat on my bed. When I sat down on the bed, it began to creak. I bought that bed when I was a child. For an adult, it should have been changed long ago. They sat on this bed, and their eyes turned red again. Why doesn't she tell us? Didn't I say that? It's just that you don't care at all. I rolled my eyes. They opened the box. When I saw the notebook inside, my eyes went black. If I had known, I shouldn't have kept a diary in the first place. They also took out the gadgets that I was a treasure when I was a child. That box is full of everything I wanted when I was a child, and the memories that gave me pain. However, I haven't put anything in it since my sister came. They opened the diary. Today is Mother's Day. I bought a bouquet of flowers for my mother. I thought she would be happy, but she threw it away and said that I deliberately reminded her of my sister, who was not around. In fact, I just want to make my mother happy. I picked up all the flowers my mother threw away and put them in my box. My mood is as gloomy as today's weather. Mom looked at the flowers in the box and cried silently. I'm so happy today. I won the first place in the exam. My mother must be very happy to see it, but the truth doesn't seem to be the case. My mother doesn't care about my first place in the exam. She only likes her sister. I can't sleep today. I don't know how many days it will be. It doesn't seem to be bright, and the night is a little scary. I think I'm sick. I'm going to the hospital for a checkup. I'm really sick, depressed. It's so annoying. Why? It turns out that this is the feeling of bleeding. I really want to die. There are only 10 days left before the college entrance examination. This is the last time I write a diary. I can finally leave here. When I leave here, I will be fine, and my illness will be fine. At this time, the mother realized that she had forced her daughter to death. If she hadn't changed her daughter's volunteering, she would not have died. Mom cried and fainted. When I opened my eyes again, I found that she was in the same ward of the hospital where I committed suicide. I went over and took a look. The window had been repaired long ago, and I couldn't see anyone jumping down from here. Mom stood up from the bed and came to the window to see how high the 33 floors were. This height even made her faint. She didn't know how desperate her daughter was, so she jumped down without hesitation. 9. My sister finally knew about my suicide, but she was calmer than I thought, not as sad as I expected. That's good. If she cries, I don't know what to do. Since my death, the family's relationship has immediately become estranged, as if I am the line that maintains their relationship. After the college entrance examination, my sister resolutely chose to leave home and go far away. Later, I realized that she heard that I originally wanted to go to the university in the South, so she came to see it for me. And my parents began to blame each other, and blamed my death on each other, to reduce the sense of guilt and guilt. Just like it was to relieve the guilt of sending my daughter away from me before. These are all learned from my sister later. After staying with my parents for 7 days, I was supposed to reincarnate, but I didn't want to go, so I was assigned to do handmaids in the underworld. I was satisfied with this job, until one day, a letter floated in my hand, and I saw that it was my sister. How are you doing, sister? To be honest, I miss you a little. I'm in college in the South now. I heard that you wanted to come here before, so I came to take a look for you. It's really better here than ours. It seems that your choice is right. My parents quarreled all day long. I heard that they were going to divorce. Aunt Gal told me all this. I haven't been back for a long time. If only you were still here. Aunt Gal's braised pork ribs are really delicious. No wonder you always go there. Let's go together in the next life. By the way, Aunt Gal misses you very much. Also, I miss you very much. Well, that's all. I'll write it for you next time. Love, your sister. Full text finished.